What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Push to Accelerate. I'm Frick,
And I'm FRaCK.
and we are joined by Andrew B. What's going on, Andrew?
Hey, not
And
much, just here in the podcast.
yes, and we're glad to have you. This is the Supervisor of Instruction for New Jersey, and Andrew oversees many of the instructors and their students, and we are very pleased to have him on the episode because he has a perspective that a lot of the instructors and certainly we do not have regarding all the awesome things that GameU is doing. So with that being said, Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started and your background, and what brought you to GameU.
Yeah. So I started October. I recently asked October 2015. So it's getting close to 4 years. And at the time, I was graduating from college from a School of Visual Arts in New York, and my sister-in-law happened to be working at GameU. And then she told me about it. She said, like, oh, yeah, we're teaching kids how to make video games and stuff like that. And then I like immediately asked her, like, oh, can you like hook me up? Can you connect me with Mike, who is the boss, who is the boss? And yeah, because the thing was, I was studying 3D modeling, 3D animation, which I still very much enjoy, but I've always had a passion for teaching. So if I was able to combine both of those things, like that would be awesome. So that's exactly what GameU was. So that's what got me started. I talked with Mike as I was wrapping up college, and then I had an interview with him, and then eventually, given time, I started working here. And at the time, GameU was still much smaller. And then what part of me was thinking is like, I'm going to try to work really hard, make this into a full-time career, because at the time Mike was saying like, you might have to balance out other work because we can't, there's a limit to what we can offer just in terms of hours.
Right.
We're only doing after school classes at the time. We didn't have Accelerate.
Right.
And then yeah, it turned into this full-time thing, which I'm super happy about. I love working here at GameU. And then so yeah, I started out as an instructor. I was teaching some group lessons. I was teaching 3D modeling to one of our first Accelerate students. And then little by little, Brad was bringing in more Accelerate students. And then one of the instructors, Zach, he jumped on board. He was shadowing me for a little while. And then, Paramus, which is now Fairlawn, like that blew up. And, all these different things were going on. And then just as we had so many studios opening up, we needed someone to kind of oversee things. So, I was uh, asked to take on the role of supervisor, which I was very happy to do, and little by little transitioning from teaching into supervising, and I feel like I've gotten a better handle of supervising, and I still love it because it's like I still love teaching, but it's almost like a different kind of teaching. It's I'm giving advice to instructors, different ways that they can teach, or sometimes receiving ideas.
Right.
They have, everyone teaches differently, and I learn a lot. There are times I'm sitting in on a class and I'm just like, whoa, that's an awesome idea, or just simply how they present it. Just
Yeah,
it's like really cool. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I do here at GameU.
that's
Awesome.
awesome. What about some stuff that you made in your career, whilst either before Game U or during it, or
So I don't have stuff that I worked on previously, and maybe I'm a little bit embarrassed to show some of that stuff anyway. I'm sure if you looked up my name, Andrew Byun, and then demo reel, I'm sure you'll be able to pull up some of my old 3D work from college. Um,
Very bad.
but
School of
yeah,
Visual Arts is impressive, so I'm sure it's not too bad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely, I think it's mainly that I focused on 3D modeling, rigging, and animation, which is all cool and important things, but you need people who know how to do lighting and rendering to really polish things and make things
Oh
look
yeah,
good. And I made the mistake of not asking for enough help on making sure that my senior thesis was like as polished as possible. So like you'll see on my demo reel where I've helped other animations and it looks super cool. You'll see my film. The animation's okay, the rigging's okay, but the it doesn't look as photoreal. It's just very cartoony. I like it. It's still a fun
Yeah.
thing.
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's even when I 3D model on Blender, getting the 3-point lighting system I always try to use, but getting it precise with the front light and like, the floodlight and all that and the backlight, it's like so hard.
Right? Yeah,
Just
yeah. It's
just to get the perfect amount of brightness, yeah, and shadows and everything.
You
mhm.
I
guys are
totally agree.
you guys are just being modest.
Well, thank you,
And it's cool
You
too.
definitely need to come to Game U to learn that. It's really hard.
And as you pull up some of the work that you've worked on at GameU too, I just want to explain to people watching the Accelerate program. If we haven't explained it before, is for adults of all abilities, and a lot of our students, including Anthony and I, have some sort of disability, and it's really neat to have a vehicle to be able to pursue our passions in video games and get a potential gainful employment and make a career out of it. So it's GameU's branched off. They still do the after school programs and stuff, but as Andrew alluded to, Accelerate's a huge part of our mission, and it's really awesome. I think Anthony and I were the first remote students that
There might
Yeah,
be
that sounds about right.
possibly. There might have been one somewhere.
Yeah, maybe, but either way, you
Somewhere.
at least you guys are the ones that I can always remember off the top of my
Yes.
head.
Well, thank you.
We are the OG.
The OGs.
Yes, the OGs.
Awesome. So if you want to pull up that
Yeah.
those examples for us, that would be awesome, and we could check
Mhm.
out all the work you do. Not all of it, but some of the work you do in gaming.
Yeah. So this right here, let me see if I can find the play button. All right. So this is as you can see on the Game U logo, there is our mascot. There's Blink, and then at the time, I was a friend of mine was really getting into designer toys and toy design and stuff. So we were doing different things like 3D printing toys and doing different kinds of stuff like that. So I wanted to make a Game U version of that. So I made my own variation of Blink. I showed it to Mike, and he was like, "Oh, this is great." So we got a bunch of 3D prints of him. And then I remember there was some campaign that we used for Blink, and then so the original design was made for 3D printing, which is very different from 3D animation. So there are some limitations in this rig, but yeah, I tried to make this as animatable as possible.
He seems
Yeah.
pretty agile to me. I mean,
Yeah. It could be just because maybe I know like the broken parts, but in this video, but that's the other thing that I'm finding out. I'm working with some other instructors and letting them animate the character, and that they're telling me like, oh yeah, it's weird how Blink does this, and like his arms are a little short or his legs are a little, different things, and it's great. It's great to be able to like test things on your own, but then when you have someone else like really test and almost break apart your rig or your model, I feel like it allows it to become that much better.
yeah, and I was doing that. What's that dance with the arms?
I'm a little teapot dance.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Can he floss? That's what I want to
You know what? That's what I should do next. I should make a video of him doing the floss. Oh my gosh, I'm sure kids would love that.
Oh
The
yeah.
floss. I don't even know what that is.
Are
Oh well.
you serious?
I'm serious.
What?
I stopped at the Dougie.
You stopped at the Dougie. Oh my gosh, how many years ago was that?
And Anthony, on the
You're only a few years younger than me.
I'm a Fortnite fan. Anthony feels
No.
they copy people, so
I will make an entire podcast
So-
episode about how Fortnite copies everybody.
But they
Right.
do it well.
And
Right.
they also very intelligently steal everybody's employees, but that's good business, I guess.
Oh boy. A topic
it's
for
not.
another day. But let me see if I can pull up some of the other stuff. So this, I believe, is something that I worked on with a student. We made kind of like a simpler rig, and in animation there's what's called FK and IK. So FK is a little bit more of like direct like rotation and stuff like that, and then IK is things like when you're reaching out for an object. You don't really think like, oh, okay, I'm going to bend my, rotate my shoulder this much and bend my elbow this much and my wrist will bend this much. You kind of do those things automatically, and that's what IK is for: inverse kinematics and forward kinematics. So this kind of Mario inspired springboard, as you can see, it uses kind of like those like little arms or elbow joints, so to speak. So it uses a lot of IK animation.
Right.
So almost like the what's it called, like the Pixar lamp animation.
Oh yeah, that does
Yeah.
remind me of that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It kind of jumps across the table.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I used
then-
inverse kinematics once on something that wasn't rigged and everything just went floppy.
Right. Yeah. It can be weird. So like, as you can see, I oftentimes tend to use it for simpler models.
Yeah.
And then let me see. I think I have one more video to pull up. Although I think I messed it up. Hold on. Give me a quick sec. Where did I put this thing?
These are really neat
Thank you.
animations, though, and show the skill level again. We will repeat
Thank
for
you.
the 100th time of the of the employees, the instructors, the supervisors at GameU, and also the skill level of the students is
And
very
the
high,
skill
too.
level of the upper management and owners too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Since they
I
are.
appreciate it.
And yeah, and also the owners, since they're AAA developers, we
Right.
have to
Yeah.
give them a shout out, at least since
Super David.
Super David.
Super David, yes.
Yes. So I have a student named David, and he is, a huge fan of Mario and whatnot. And he is a student that is just very precise. Like if I do something, he will copy it to a T. So that was, one of the things we were using. This is using Game Maker, and so we tried to kind of imitate Mario as much as we can. But his name is David, so we put a little D on his cap. I wasn't sure how I wanted to make like Mario grow, so I was like, oh, what? I'll just give him a little construction worker hat so that I could simplify the process a lot
And
more.
so he doesn't get hurt too, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is
Safety
really neat.
first.
So you made that with this student, David. So again, this is the work that our instructors do with students, and it's really really rewarding. I would say before we get into all the awesome things with game use, since I mentioned me liking Fortnite, we want to ask you what sort of games are you playing currently? What's your favorite games maybe from the past? What sort of games intrigue you, Andrew?
Yeah. Let's see. Probably the most recent game that I've been playing is League of Legends. For a long while, I kind of stopped playing because it was just too addictive and whatnot, and I just couldn't keep up with like all the different changes that were going on. But then, what ended up happening is another GameU instructor was like, "Oh yeah, I've just been playing League here and there." So I was like, "Yeah, let's just play together." So every once in a while, I play with other instructors. So it's fun, and it's fun to play with people
Right.
won't get so invested in it. They'll still be competitive, they'll still try to have a good time, but like, the online community can be one extreme or the other of being super inviting and friendly, or just hate on you for making the smallest mistake, like, oh, I can't believe
Nerd
you
rage.
yeah, exactly, right. Yeah.
That's great.
So,
No,
yeah.
that is an addicting game. That's similar to I used to play World of Warcraft, and I had to unsubscribe because I got way too into it for many
Uh-huh.
years. I did
Nice.
play League of Legends. I believe the character's name I always played is Heimerdinger.
Okay,
Is it?
yeah.
Yeah. And I got to be very good with him. I don't feel like it's a very high, probably not the most difficult player to play, which I tend to do too. I tend to take the easy characters to play, and then
Oh,
do
that's totally fine.
them.
Nice,
But yeah,
nice.
so I do like that game. And do you have any favorites that are kind of newer titles, or no, you do not game too much now with your busy position at
Um,
gaming?
I do still try to make some, my wife will tell me that I definitely try to make time to play video
Too
games.
much time to make.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah. But let's see. You know what's kind of embarrassing is like sometimes I will watch videos of other people playing video games. It's a
Uh,
big thing these days,
it is,
Yeah,
so
it's
I'll
kind
get
of
so
cool. Yeah.
into it. So right now I just have my PC, so I don't have any of the newer consoles. I've been
right.
watching a ton of videos on like the recent God of War game
Okay.
that came out,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and like along with watching videos of cutscenes or playthroughs or whatever, I really love when you get to see like the developers talking about it or the creative director.
Hmm.
There's tons of like cool videos, and then there's also videos. I saw this one recently of this guy trying to imitate some of the gameplay mechanics, like in the new God of War game. He's got this axe that he can throw, and then he just like sticks his hand out, zips back to his hand.
That's
I'm
funny.
frozen.
That's no, yeah, no,
Um,
no,
but
you're
yeah,
good.
so
Can you
anyways, this
hit?
guy was
Yeah.
trying to like imitate it, trying to get the mechanics to work. Yeah. And then trying to get the what's it called? All the special effects and stuff to match. So it's just cool. Um, just the community that it produces. People are just so fascinated either just to play the game or just thinking about like how they're going to make the game.
It's all
There's
right.
my
It's
wife.
hello. That's great. That's great. It's a family. We're a big family at GameU, so that's good.
Yes, exactly.
So that and to your point, I believe that joining GameU has helped me to realize all the details that go into making a game, and it's made me appreciate video games that I play even more because all the hard work that goes into it.
Oh yeah.
Before you realize how to make games, you're kind of just like, oh wow, that's cool. Like you don't know how many people it takes, how much time it takes, how much effort it takes, and it really opens your eyes. Game U is pretty great. You want to ask his last question here for him, FRaCK?
Yeah, sure. What's your favorite thing about Game U if you had to pick one thing? And why would you recommend it for other people too?
Okay. Can I treat this as two questions?
Yes, sure.
All right, cool.
Technically, they are.
Yeah, right. Okay, good. All right. So let's see. As for what is my favorite thing about Game U? Um, all right, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say two things. Number one is definitely the people. And I'm cheating even more because that people includes everybody. I love working with the Game U staff. I love being, now that I have a higher up position, I get to hang out, at headquarters and, talk to everyone. So it's, you know, they're all just great people who, they're all there to help each other and help the students. And, it's awesome to learn from them. And then, I get to work with the instructors who they they're the blood that keeps Game U working, and
Absolutely.
it's fun to see their passion for video games, and it's fun to see their passion to see like students learning and growing, you know
Right.
I agree.
so yeah, it's super exciting. And then and obviously the students, it's so much fun, giving students that like aha moment, or just even like the smallest tasks, like
Yeah.
changing the color on something. When you get so into like the complexities of video game design,
Yeah.
it's so easy to take for granted the little things of like, hey, I just tweaked this little thing, or I customized this little thing, and then you see, an Accelerate student or a group lesson student just being like, oh, this is awesome, this is so cool, like
Right.
maybe not word for word what they're saying, but like they're excited that it's their unique game,
Exactly.
and that's just an exciting thing to see.
No, absolutely, it is, and I agree. When I started learning to do the little things, I just did them over and over and over again because I was like, I know how to do this now, and
Right, yeah.
it's groundbreaking for a lot of people when they learn to do something. So it's great. It's great having you on, Andrew. We hope to have you on again regularly to update us on all the great things that GameU is doing.
Yeah, don't get too big for us.
Yeah, don't forget us, okay? But
Never.
thank you, buddy. Thanks for answering our questions and giving us a little sneak peek of the day-to-day operations for the supervisor position of New Jersey. And why don't you go spend some time with your wife, since we know she's
Yeah, definitely. And guys, thank you so much.